Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Hall. You may call me Dr. Kennard. This is the Disappointed Cat Morning Show. What are we talking about today? We're going to be talking about this upstanding citizen, his dad, a retired New Jersey state trooper, a small business person who owned his gym. This particular guy sentenced to jail for 41 months. Oh, he looked like such a stable person. Did his brother, what is his brother part of the Secret Service? Yes. Is his brother, did he watch Michelle Obama at one point? Yes. But this gentleman, he decided to punch a cop in the face on the January 6th riot. Let us take a look at our lead story. U.S. Capitol rioter who assaulted police officer gets 41 months in prison. Is 41 months the minimum sentence? Microphone? Yes, it is the minimum sentence. Are we surprised that Mr. Lamb got the minimum sentence? No, we're not surprised. What's that? If he was black, he would have been shot in the back 7 times? Probably. But let's get into the story. Links in the description below, everyone. CNN, a New Jersey gym owner and former MMA fighter who punched a police officer during the January 6th riot, was sentenced to 41 months in prison on Wednesday, becoming the first rioter sentenced for violence against the police during the attack. Scott Fairlamb, I'm going to pronounce it Fairlamb, pleaded guilty in August to assaulting a police officer and obstructing an official proceeding. He has been in jail since he was arrested in late January and will get credit for the time he has already spent behind bars. Fairlamb was also the first riot defendant to plead guilty to assault under the circumstances, a wise choice on his part. Before handing down the sentence, Lambert, the judge, told Fairlamb he had made the right decision in accepting a plea agreement. Had you gone to trial, I don't think there's any jury that could have acquitted you. You couldn't have beat this. Lambert said that the other January 6th defendants in situations similar to Fairlamb's are going to get a lot more to. Oh, that makes me feel so good inside. I'm going to read it again. The judge said that other January 6th defendants in situations similar to Fairlamb's are going to get a lot more time in prison if they go to trial, and would be wise to follow Fairlamb's example and plead guilty. The way you hit the police officer in the face like that, you're fortunate he wasn't injured, Lambert said. Fairlamb was also sentenced to 36 months of supervised release following his time in prison and will have to pay $2,000 in damage for the damage he did to the Capitol. He also lost his gym, by the way, supposedly, from what I've read, from what I've seen. He had a gym in New Jersey, and he lost that once he got arrested. Body camera footage shows Fairlamb following and yelling at officers on January 6th. He's back in the blue, everyone, at one point shouting, "You have no effing idea what you're doing." He then shoved and punched the officer in the head, the footage shows. Prosecutors allege that Fairlamb was one of the first rioters inside the Senate side of the building. 4 days after the siege, Fairlamb allegedly tagged Representative Cori Bush, a Missouri Democrat, in an Instagram post and wrote that he should have lit your ass up, presumably during the attack. The post also contains screenshots of racist and sexist threats against the Congresswoman. A bully on this. Wow. If that's not, and his dad was a state trooper? Wow. That's surprising too. Who would have thought that, everyone? Only 41 months too. That's the minimum sentence. He could have gotten more. Checking out the chat, seeing how everyone's doing this morning. Before I talk more about Fairlamb, I'm going to get to the chat. What's up, John Hudson? Tobin Templeman, glad to see that you're here. BigZebra.com. Simply Secular Dave from the West Coast. It is Remembrance Day today, is Veterans Day too. Do we say happy memory? It's Veterans Day. I hope you all take some time and reflect on this special day. What's up, Wild Eden? What's up, Grant Farmer? Glad to see that you're here. Morning, Jess M. Tesla Ranger says, Scott Fairlamb is a sheep. Yes. I'm sure that some of you have already thought about it, the fact that the man was an MMA fighter, that he was a boxing coach. How many hits to the head did this guy get? How many hits to the head? Because as you well know, people who are boxers can get dinged in the head quite a few times, and those hits over and over and over again can cause significant brain damage. And what happens when you get brain damage? You have low impulse control, you have poor executive functions, and you just can't think very well. Scott Duke, good morning. It is a good morning so far. So far, so good. God, imaginary God, hello, hello. Well, aggression seems to run in the family. That's right. The apple doesn't fall far from the idiot tree. Oh, Big Zebra, will you introduce us to the weird ass stalls over your right shoulder? That's right. This is, I'll introduce you to one of them right now. This is my favorite. This is Alan Turing. Alan Turing. We know who Alan Turing is, right? The Enigma code, the Enigma machines there in World War II. He was part of Bletchley Park in England. And of course, he got screwed by the British government after the war. He was gay. And because he was convicted of being a homosexual, he committed suicide afterwards because and I swear to my fictitious God, I'm not fictitious. That's freaking and fictitious together. My fictitious God. Yes, the man who helped win the war for Britain was convicted of homosexuality, sentenced to chemical castration, committed suicide by eating a poisoned apple. The next time you see an Apple logo, there are rumors that the Apple logo is a callback to Alan Turing's horrific treatment and the way he committed suicide, everyone. Wow, way to bring the fucking party down, Andy Hall. But it's important to go over the basics with this, about, and I guess I'm going to talk a little bit more about Alan Turing. We wouldn't have had these toxic anti-homosexual laws if it wasn't for Christianity. If it wasn't for Christianity, because there's a few things that the Bible is consistent about. It is homosexuality is evil, and that slavery is good. All right, that was a little tangent, unexpected bit of rage there. Dark, John Hudson, dark. Scapegoat Iscariot, how you doing? All right. I'm going to do other stories. Other stories? This was interesting. No, not all my, no. There's, I have Plato. This is Plato up here. And this is, of course, Jesus. And this is Schrodinger's cat. Okay, we got to get to the next story, everyone. We got to get to the next story. And this is interesting. COVID-resistant people inspire new vaccine tactic. So COVID-19 was a novel coronavirus, but it turns out that some people did have a resistance to it, even though it was a new virus. Before I muddy up the waters anymore, I'm going to get right into the article. A team at University College London said some people had a degree of COVID immunity before the pandemic started. This likely came from the body learning how to fight viruses that are related to the one which has swept the world. Upgrading vaccines to copy this protection could make the jabs even more effective, the team said. The scientists were closely monitoring hospital staff during the first wave of the pandemic, including by taking regular blood samples. Despite being in a high-risk environment, not everyone in the study came down with COVID. The results, published in the journal Nature, a peer-reviewed journal, of course, showed some people just managed to avoid the virus. This is interesting. During the bubonic plague, there were just some people in Western Europe who just didn't get it, who were exposed to it and just didn't get it. But I digress. I guess this is Thursday digression day. Let's go to the next panel. But around 1 in 10 had signs of being exposed, but never had symptoms, never tested positive, and never developed COVID-fighting antibodies in their blood. Part of their immune system was able to get on top of the virus before it managed to take hold. What's known as an abortive infection. Is abortive infections illegal in Texas? Maybe. Yeah, that's a joke. I'm sorry for that. Let's go to the next panel. Samples showed that these people already had, as in before the pandemic, protective T cells, which recognize and kill cells infected with COVID. Dr. Leo Swadling, one of the researchers, said their immune systems were already poised to fight the new disease. These T cells were able to spot a different part of the virus than the bit most of the current vaccines train the immune system to find. Vaccines are largely aimed at the spike protein, which covers the outer surface of the COVID virus. However, these rare T cells were able to look inside the virus and find the proteins that are necessary for it to replicate. The healthcare workers that were able to control the virus before it was detectable were more likely to have these T cells that recognize the internal machinery before the start of the pandemic, Dr. Swadling added. So just as a review, the vaccines that we have today typically target the spike protein. However, this type of immunity, abortive immunity, that these healthcare workers had attacked the internal workings of the virus itself. The internal proteins are very similar in all related species of coronavirus, including the ones that are widespread and cause common cold symptoms. It means targeting these proteins with a vaccine could give some protection against all coronaviruses and new COVID variants. Let me read it again for people in the cheap seats. It means targeting these proteins with a vaccine could give some protection against all coronaviruses and, here's the magic, new COVID variants. Because we've seen with the variants, as typically, from what I understand, the mutations, it's all about the spike protein, right? But if we have vaccines that target the internal working of the virus, oh, that'd be beautiful. The team said the current vaccines were doing an excellent job of preventing people from becoming severely ill, but were not as good at stopping them catching COVID. And this is the last panel, everyone, for this story. While nearly everyone will have caught these common cold coronaviruses, not everyone will have developed the right kind of protective T cells. It may be that healthcare workers are more regularly exposed to the viruses through their work, and that is why some of them had protection. Dr. Alexander Edwards of the University of Reading said insights from the study could be critical in the design of a different type of vaccine. Hopefully, the study will lead to further advances in vaccine development as we need all the types of vaccines we can get. Bam, just like that. Just like that, everyone, huh? I'm just flicking that on. Just going to check out the chat before we do the halftime tummy rub show, because we all want to see the halftime tummy rub show. The darkness lightens. That's right, John Hudson. It isn't always dark here on the Disappointed Cat morning show. I want to see a Play-Doh. I see what you did there, Simply Secular Dave. Let's see. That's right. It looks like they possibly found something beyond the spike proteins. That is correct. Scapegoat Iscariot. Let us take a look. Hey, and if you are actually watching this show on Facebook, and if you want to join us in the chat, because I can interact with people on the chat if you're on YouTube with us, then there is a link in the description to go to YouTube and where you can interact with us. I just want to say also that there is the after party after show that's I'm going to have to cut it short again today. I'm going to have to cut it short because I have things I have to do. I'll explain later during the halftime, after the after party, or during the after party. So the after party is going from 9:30 to 10:45 today, everyone. So this show ends at 9:25. The after party goes from 9:30 today till 10:15. All right, let's just do this thing. Halftime tummy rub show, everyone. Have some fun.
I want chicken wings, 2 pounds, spicy. I'd like some ranch to dip them in. I call that a chicken wing.
A wonderful little video of a happy cat. Was that cat dreaming of chicken wings? Probably not. Maybe, I don't know. So what's our last story? Let me take a look here. First, oh my freaking God. Yeah, so this is our angry. This is our angry news story we're going to cover today, everyone. I got the anger. It's just reading about this earlier today. First Nations in Ontario could receive billions in back rent after court ruling. A treaty reimburses Indigenous communities for wealth extracted from their lands, but payment has, hear this, has remained at $4, and that's for Canadian dollars a year since 1874. Oh, Canada. It looks like you're screwing people. Let's take a look at this story, everyone. Canada could face compensation payments to Indigenous communities worth billions after a court found it had willfully screwed First Nations of the immense wealth extracted from their lands. The Crown has made payments to 23 First Nations of the Robinson-Huron Treaty Territory since 1850 in exchange for territory roughly the size of France. In 1874, the payment was increased to $4 a year. It has not changed since then. Yeah. $4 a year since 1874. And somehow I don't think $4 in 1874 was really a just price either, right? On Friday, Ontario's Court of Appeal ruled unanimously that the meager payments were a violation of the spirit of the treaty to share the wealth generated from the territory. What's that? A government made a treaty specifically designed to screw Indigenous people? I'm shocked. I tells you. The case has now been sent back to a trial judge to determine how much money the nearly 40,000, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, this native tribe descended from nations that ceded the territory are owed, a figure that will probably be in the billions of dollars. It is not clear if the federal government, the government of Ontario, or both will be required to pay the compensation. At a press conference on Tuesday, Chief Dean Sayers of Batchewana First Nation hailed the court victory as an incredible moment in the history of our lands here in Canada, and said the decision represented a long overdue chance for the, all right, I'm going to try it, everyone, Anishinaabe people to reclaim our inheritances. You know, it isn't just getting the money owed, but what about the interest, the compound interest from 1874? What's that microphone? It would be as if you're going to bankrupt Canada. Well, let's not forget a little historical note too, is that when England decided to outlaw slavery in some of its territories, right, it actually paid slave owners, and that was back in the early 19th century, and the loan didn't get repaid until Cameron was prime minister. I know we have a lot to say about Cameron too, but we're just going to say that it took England centuries to pay off its debt that it owed. Maybe Canada should be taking out a big hefty loan to pay out for the secular sins it did to the native tribes. Let's continue. The treaty, named after fur trader turned politician William Benjamin Robinson, who negotiated with Indigenous communities, covers 35,700 square miles of land and grants the indigenous communities the rights to hunt and fish the land, as well as an annual rent paid to each person. In the 171 years since the treaty was signed, the land on the north shores of Lake Huron and Lake Superior has become a valuable source of revenue for the mining and forest industries. But despite the immense revenues generated by the industry, remote First Nations continue to live in abysmal conditions, sometimes lacking access to clean drinking water. I told you it was going to get you angry. If you're not angry, I don't know what's wrong with you, to tell you the truth. Maybe you're a Republican. I don't know. The High Court victory marks the latest win for the litigants who have won every step of the process in the multi-year fight. Mike Restole, chair of the Robinson-Huron Treaty Litigation Fund, told reporters, Ontario's Attorney General's office says it is reviewing the decision, but could not comment on the matter before the courts. The federal government has indicated it is willing to discuss a settlement if Ontario agrees to participate in the talks. We know it is the time now for the government of Ontario to embrace the reality, to embrace the facts, to embrace the history, and also embrace the rule of law, said Chief Duke Peltier. Now, what would be a douchebag move by the government? It would be to appeal the decision by the judge. Is Canada that kind of country that would do that? Well, it's did it before. It has done stuff like that before. Ontario has 60 days to appeal the ruling, which would send the case to Canada's Supreme Court. But Indigenous leaders have instead called on the provincial government to join them at the bargaining table. There is also mounting pressure on various levels of government to not appeal against the court rulings that affirm Indigenous rights or significant final settlements due to those communities. Justin Trudeau's Liberal government has faced sharp criticism for its recent decision to appeal against a ruling that would pave the way for a huge compensation payment to Indigenous children who suffered in foster care. That is the residential school scandal that we've been following, ladies and gentlemen, and small furry animals from Alpha Centauri. So, Canada, don't be a jerk any more than you are. Just pay out. That's all. Just pay out. That's all you have to do. And even paying out isn't going to make it right, but at least it shows that you're not a bag of dicks. Here we go. Checking out the chat here before wrapping up the show, everyone. If we started charging the USA for all the water, the drinking water that they send down here, we wouldn't need a loan. That is true. That is true. Let's see. What else is going on? Government screwing people. Not only people, I mean, say it isn't so exactly. Well, that's what happens. Exactly. That's what happens. Wait a minute. This is the wrong one. This is it, right? That's what you do in Canada. Make a treaty, then ignore the treaty. All right, everyone. Let's wrap up this show. Once again, after show starts at 9:30. If you want to join in, panel, link right there in the description. If you're part of the community, if I know who you are, then you're more than welcome to pop in. No ads. No ads on the channel. Everything's done with your support. Venmo, PayPal me, down in the description. There are links there. If you want to become a YouTube member, please do. If you want to become a patron, I'm not going to argue with you. Let's do some cat. You want to do some cat? Microphone? Microphone says yes, we should do cat right now. Let's do cat. And then I'm going to drop the thank you video for YouTube members and patrons.
Does anyone else agree that the biggest problem in our society is all the people